Right now, inside your body, a clock is ticking. It does not hang on a wall and it makes no sound, but every organ, every cell, every drop of blood is aware of it. This is the clock that measures when you last ate. And when you decide to eat only once a day, that clock begins to stretch longer than your body was designed to expect. At first, nothing feels dramatic. You may even feel lighter, sharper, more focused, but deep inside your bloodstream, quiet adjustments begin within minutes of your last bite. The moment you finish your meal, your digestive system shifts into motion. Your stomach releases acid. Your intestines begin breaking food into particles small enough to enter the blood. Glucose, the simplest form of sugar, rises gently through your circulation. Your pancreas responds immediately, releasing insulin like a key turning in thousands of microscopic locks. Cells open their doors. Glucose flows inside. Your liver stores extra fuel. Your muscles hold on to what they can. For a short time, your body is calm and secure. Energy is available. Hormones are balanced. Signals between organs are steady. But this is only the first hour. 2 hours later, your blood sugar begins to fall. Insulin levels slowly decline. The body senses that incoming fuel has stopped. The stomach empties. The small intestine finishes its work. Hunger hormones start whispering to your brain, not loudly, but enough to remind you that the feeding window has closed. Inside the liver, stored glucose begins to release back into the bloodstream. This is a backup system, a quiet reserve tank. It keeps your brain alive and alert. The brain does not store fuel. It demands constant supply, and so your liver obeys. 4 hours pass. The digestive system has largely finished processing your meal. Insulin is now low. The body begins shifting from storage mode to conservation mode. Fat cells receive a different message now. Instead of storing energy, they prepare to release it. Hormones adjust like switches flipping in a dark control room. Glucagon rises, cortisol steadies. The bloodstream becomes less crowded with nutrients. You may feel normal, perhaps slightly hungry, but inside your metabolism has already changed direction. By hour 6, your liver's stored glucose begins to run low. The body senses a longer gap than usual. It responds carefully. Fat begins to break down into smaller molecules. These molecules travel through the blood toward the liver. Inside that organ, a transformation occurs. Fat is converted into ketones, an alternative fuel. The brain slowly begins to accept this new energy source. It is a quiet adaptation. No alarm sounds, no pain warns you, but your cells are adjusting their chemistry. 8 hours have passed. Most people would have eaten again by now. But if you are eating only once a day, the body recognizes a prolonged fast. Blood sugar remains stable, but only because the liver is working continuously. Insulin stays low. Fat breakdown increases. Muscles begin conserving their protein. Your metabolism is cautious. It does not know if more food is coming tonight or tomorrow. It prepares for both possibilities. 10 hours in, hunger may intensify. This is driven by a hormone called ghrelin, rising in waves. It does not climb steadily, it pulses. That is why hunger often comes in sharp moments, then fades. Inside your brain, survival circuits activate. Food becomes more noticeable. Smells seem stronger. Thoughts drift toward eating. Yet physically, your body remains stable. Blood pressure holds. Heartbeat continues rhythmically. Organs remain quiet. 12 hours pass. Now the internal shift becomes deeper. The liver's stored glucose is nearly depleted. Ketone production increases more noticeably. The brain begins relying more heavily on this alternative fuel. For some, this creates clarity. For others, mild fatigue. It depends on how adapted the body is to fasting. Deep inside muscle tissue, a subtle protection mechanism activates. The body tries to spare muscle protein. It prefers to burn fat first. But if fasting continues repeatedly over days without sufficient nutrition, muscle breakdown can slowly begin, not dramatically, not visibly, but gradually. 14 hours in, insulin remains low. This is often described as beneficial because low insulin allows fat burning. And that is true to a degree. Fat cells are releasing energy. The bloodstream carries fatty acids steadily. But hormones are delicate. Extended low insulin combined with rising stress hormones begins to influence other systems. Thyroid activity may slightly adjust. Reproductive hormones may quietly respond. The body is always balancing survival against long-term function. 16 hours have passed. This is where many structured fasting plans intentionally stop, but if you eat only once a day, you continue. Inside your stomach, acid levels rise and fall even without food. The digestive system waits. The brain monitors blood chemistry constantly. Your body temperature may subtly dip. Metabolism slows slightly to conserve energy. It is not dramatic, it is protective. 18 hours in, fat breakdown continues steadily. Ketones are now a primary fuel source. The brain adapts further. Some people report mental sharpness at this stage. Others feel irritable. Both are biological responses. Deep inside your cells, a cleanup process known as cellular recycling increases. Old components are broken down and reused. This process is natural and beneficial in moderation. But like all biological systems, it depends on balance. 20 hours pass. Now the body senses a prolonged absence of incoming nutrients. Cortisol, a stress hormone, rises gently to help maintain blood sugar. It does not spike wildly. It increases just enough to keep the brain supplied. If this pattern repeats daily without sufficient calories, the stress response can become more pronounced over time. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually. 22 hours in, your stomach feels empty. Hunger may surge again. The liver continues producing ketones. Muscle tissue remains under protection, but the margin narrows if total protein intake over days is insufficient. Your heart continues beating steadily, but electrolytes must remain balanced. Sodium and potassium shift subtly during long fasts. Without adequate intake during your single meal, small imbalances can accumulate. Then finally, the 24th hour arrives. The body has been running on stored fuel almost entirely. Hormones are tuned for conservation. Fat is being used efficiently. Blood sugar is stable, but only because the body is working carefully to maintain it. When you finally eat again, a powerful wave of insulin returns. Cells open quickly. The digestive system moves rapidly. The body shifts from survival mode back to storage mode within minutes, and the cycle begins again. At first glance, this pattern may seem clean, even efficient. One meal, long fasting, fat burning, but inside, the story is more complex than it appears, because while some systems adapt smoothly, others respond more cautiously, and the true effects are not felt in a single day. They unfold quietly over weeks, months, and years. Over days and weeks of eating once a day, the internal clock begins to reset itself around this new rhythm. Your organs are remarkably adaptable. They learn patterns quickly. If food reliably arrives every 24 hours, the body anticipates it. Hormones begin rising in expectation just before your usual mealtime. Hunger sharpens at predictable hours, then quiets again once the single meal is finished. On the surface, it can feel controlled, disciplined, efficient. But beneath that surface, subtle trade-offs begin forming. Inside your thyroid gland, the regulator of metabolic speed, signals are quietly evaluated. When the body senses repeated long fasting periods, it asks a simple survival question: should energy be conserved? In response, metabolic rate may adjust slightly downward, not dramatically, not enough to stop daily function, but enough to reduce how much fuel you burn at rest. This is not damage, it is adaptation. The body protects itself from perceived scarcity. Over time, this can make fat loss plateau, even if you are eating less overall. The system is not broken, it is protecting you. Deep inside muscle tissue, another calculation unfolds. If your single meal contains enough protein, muscles remain largely protected. But if total intake is inconsistent, the body may gradually borrow small amounts of protein to support essential functions. It never announces this shift. You will not feel muscle dissolving, but over months, slight decreases in strength or recovery may appear. The body prioritizes survival organs first: brain, heart, lungs. Muscle is considered expendable if fuel becomes unreliable. Meanwhile, inside your brain, the long fasting window influences mood and focus in complex ways. Ketones continue to supply energy efficiently, and many people report mental clarity. But the brain also depends on steady micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, to regulate neurotransmitters. If your single meal lacks variety or density, subtle deficiencies may develop slowly. Mood may become less stable. Sleep patterns may shift. Irritability may increase, not because fasting is inherently harmful, but because concentration of nutrition into one meal requires precision. The body cannot store many vitamins long-term. They must be replenished consistently. In women especially, hormonal systems respond sensitively to repeated long fasting. Reproductive hormones are deeply connected to perceived energy availability. If the body interprets extended daily fasting as ongoing scarcity, it may reduce certain hormone signals to conserve resources. Cycles can become irregular. Ovulation may shift. This is not immediate. It unfolds quietly, month by month, as the brain's hormone center adjusts its communication with the ovaries. In men, prolonged calorie restriction over time can influence testosterone levels, especially if protein and total energy intake are insufficient. Again, this is gradual, subtle, often unnoticed until secondary effects appear, such as reduced energy or slower muscle repair. Inside your digestive system, concentrating all calories into one meal creates another challenge. The stomach must stretch significantly during that feeding window. Digestive enzymes surge, blood flow is redirected toward the gut. Some individuals tolerate this easily. Others experience bloating or discomfort because the digestive system is processing a large load at once. The body prefers rhythm and moderation. When meals are spaced, digestion operates smoothly. When compressed into a short window, it works intensely for a brief period, then rests for long hours. Neither pattern is inherently wrong, but each demands adaptation. Blood sugar dynamics also shift over time. When you eat a large single meal, especially one high in carbohydrates, glucose may rise more sharply than if that same food were divided across the day. Insulin responds strongly to manage the surge. For metabolically healthy individuals, this may not pose a problem. But for those already close to insulin resistance, repeated large spikes may gradually strain the system. The pancreas works hard during that single window, then rests for many hours. It is a dramatic swing between extremes. The body tolerates it, but extremes always require vigilance. Hydration patterns matter too. During long fasting hours, especially if caffeine is consumed, fluid balance can shift. Sodium and potassium levels may dip slightly if not replaced adequately during the meal. The heart relies on these minerals for steady rhythm. Most of the time, the body compensates easily, but repeated imbalance over months can increase fatigue or dizziness, especially when standing quickly. These signals are often subtle, dismissed as normal tiredness, yet they reflect deeper internal adjustments. There is also a psychological layer. When eating once a day becomes rigid rather than flexible, stress can quietly build. The brain perceives restriction differently than intentional structure. If fasting is accompanied by anxiety about food, cortisol levels may remain elevated longer than intended. Chronic mild elevation of stress hormones can influence blood pressure, sleep quality, and fat distribution over time. The body does not distinguish between emotional stress and metabolic stress. It responds to both through similar chemical pathways. And yet, there are potential benefits when this pattern is implemented carefully. Insulin remains low for extended periods, allowing fat stores to be accessed efficiently. Cellular cleanup processes may increase during fasting windows, helping recycle damaged components. Some individuals experience improved metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch smoothly between burning carbohydrates and fat. But these benefits depend heavily on context. Total nutrition, sleep quality, activity level, and stress all shape the outcome. Eating once a day is not simply about hours without food. It is about how the body interprets the overall environment. So what is the real reveal? The truth is that your body is not fragile, nor is it reckless. It is responsive. When you eat once a day, hour by hour, your system shifts into conservation, fuel switching, and hormone recalibration. For some, especially those with stable health and balanced meals, it may function without obvious harm. For others, especially those already under stress or with nutrient gaps, the quiet trade-offs accumulate. The difference is rarely visible in a week. It emerges over seasons of repetition. The fix then is not extreme, it is awareness. If choosing one meal a day, that meal must be complete, rich in protein to protect muscle, balanced in healthy fats, steady in carbohydrates to avoid sharp spikes, dense in vitamins and minerals to support brain and hormones. Hydration must be intentional. Electrolytes should not be ignored. Sleep must remain consistent because fasting combined with poor sleep magnifies stress signals. And flexibility matters. The body thrives on signals of safety. Occasionally adjusting the window, listening to fatigue, and responding to hormonal cues prevents the system from slipping too far into conservation mode. Right now, inside you, the clock continues ticking. Whether you eat once a day or several times, your organs are adapting in real time. The liver is balancing fuel. The pancreas is managing sugar. The brain is measuring energy availability. None of it is dramatic, none of it is loud. But it is constant, and the real power lies not in pushing your body to an extreme, but in understanding the quiet conversation happening beneath your skin, hour by hour, day after day.